Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Kubi Rabbi Nas Maliki Nas Min Shawas Wasuki Nas Aladi Fisador Nas Min Ajanati Wanas. I want to continue to talk about Yahshua Hamashiach, the Messiah, the anointed of the Yahuwah of Yahweh. Um, Jesus, as you know of in the biblical scriptures, all throughout, he was more of like a civil rights leader. He was a leader for his people against the Roman, because the Roman Empire had came in and seized the land of Jerusalem. And at the time that they seized the land of Jerusalem, they put upon the mandates of the people and orchestrated the laws of the people. But yet the children of Israel still had laws that was in place that they followed, which was called their traditions, in the laws of Yahweh, which was the 316 laws of Yahweh, which some people believe that there are 10 commandments. But in these laws, you'll look in the book of Deuteronomy, they had laws for eating, which was dietary laws. They had laws for sacrificial offerings. They had laws for the way that they were supposed to cut their hair. They had laws for the way that they were supposed to make their clothes. They had laws for mannerisms, and they had laws for the way they ate. And yet, you know what I'm saying, Yahshua HaMashiach, the Messiah, Jesus, when he came along, he told the children of Israel in the temple or the tabernacle that Solomon had built. He read from the chapter of Isaiah to tell them of the coming of a Savior for their people. And you must understand, when he came, they didn't take him as a Savior because he wasn't of royal bloodline of the ruling heirs of the kingdom. So he was from Miriam, and her family was from the Leviticus line, which were the priests. But at that time, when the Romans had came, the priesthood had evaporated, just like of today. You see the churches within the African American communities, which doesn't have structure as the European churches have, because they had the children of Israel feeling inferior, um, and they made themselves great and their gods great. Now you must understand that Yahshua HaMashiach came, and when he came, he reminded the children of Israel of the 316 laws of Yahweh that they had forgot. Now guess what? In this time that we live in, we have the canon of the Europeans, which are called the Roman laws. We have forgot our way, which is our culture, and our natural dispensation, which is the laws of nature. So we have adopted the canons of the Europeans, and yet we don't know that. And the reason why this is a fact is because you cannot get out the A grade unless you take the Constitution. Because once you take the Constitution, you're considered as a United States citizen, where you was born and naturalized that. And when you are considered a United States citizen, then the law of that land governs you. So now this law of the land governs you. And yet, you know what I'm saying, your mother, your father, your grandmother, they never told you nothing, you know what I'm saying, about the laws. When you hear about Martin Luther King, you hear about the 1963 Civil Rights Act that was passed. But how many people have took time out to go and read that 1963 act that was passed, which is called Civil Rights? You go back, you know what I'm saying, before Martin Luther King had this law passed, Martin Luther King was studious. So he looked at something called the Post-Civil War Reconstruction Act of 1881, which was called the Ku Klux Klan Act. And he wanted the United States government to implement a policy against its own people for the torturous acts that they was committing against African Americans, or at that time colored Negroes. This law had already been put on the books, so he wanted the president to uh, he wanted him to implement it, to make a new bill. You know what I'm saying? Because the old bill had been repealed, and it wasn't good law anymore, because the states weren't recognizing this, and they had came up with the laws in the states uh, where a black man had no rights that a white man should respect. But in the Civil War, when they promised the African Americans or the Negroes or the colored people that they had a right, um, to be free and to uh, break away from the slavery, you know what I'm saying, of the South. Well, they promised them these things, but the South had still passed laws that was infringing upon the rights, the immunities, and the privileges of people. So Martin Luther King understood that. So he came in and had the president to pass the 1963 Civil Rights Act, which was codified under Title 42, United States Codes, 1983. Now, don't believe me, go look it up. It gives you the right to petition the courts for redress to under the Bill of Rights. When your constitutional rights are being violated, you have a right to sue and get redress, and get compensated for your rights being violated. Your rights are being violated every day. Now, I want to tell you something else that, you know what I'm saying, you may not understand, but under the Illinois Constitution of 1970, Article 1, Section 2 deals with equal protection. Illinois Constitution of 1970, Article 4, Section AD deals with the single subject clause. Every law in Illinois under the Illinois Compiled Statute has been held to be unconstitutional by the Illinois Supreme Court. Yet they come in with curative language. And this language that's cured, they come back in and they don't fix the issue. They just revise the issues with a book and compile it in. So when your people or your children or your grandmother is in court and they charge you with a law, just remember that they're violating their constitutional rights because they're violating the one act, one crime, and making about things called multiplicity and duplicity, stacking cases on top of cases. You go to court, you got one case. Then when you indicted, you got 24. This is how they did Yahshua HaMashiach. The Romans, this is the Roman way. They are very maliciously against us, and they practice sadistic ways, which is just evil. You know, I leave you in peace and love. But if you're going to do what Jesus done, and you believe in Jesus, then you will stand up and pick up your cross. And that means you will stand up, you know what I'm saying, and fight for your people. I leave you in peace. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam. Rahmatullah barakatuh.